The starship Celestial Voyager hung in Earth's orbit like a massive steel spider, its hull gleaming under the sun's rays. Lieutenant Alex Chen stood at attention, uniform pressed, palms sweaty. 6 months of diplomatic preparations had led to this moment, the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the Galaxians. As Earth's military liaison to the alien delegation, Alex had memorized every cultural briefing, every diplomatic protocol. None of it had prepared him for Princess Lyra. She swept into the conference room flanked by guards, her iridescent skin shifting between shades of violet and blue with each movement. 7 feet tall with 4 arms and eyes that seemed to change color with her mood, Princess Lyra was both beautiful and terrifying. Alex bowed deeply as she approached, exactly 15 degrees as specified in the briefing materials. "Lieutenant Chen," she said, her translator converting her melodic tones into crisp English. "Your species intrigues me. So fragile, yet you've managed to survive on your hostile planet for millennia." "Thank you, Your Highness," Alex replied, choosing his words carefully. "We're honored by your presence and the opportunity for alliance between our worlds." The princess tilted her head, studying him with those kaleidoscope eyes. "Are we? Because from what I've observed, humans barely qualify as a sentient species. Your technology is primitive, your civilization chaotic, and your reproductive cycles." She made a sound that might have been a laugh, inefficient at best. The delegation of scientists and diplomats behind Alex shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward with a placating smile. "With respect, Your Highness, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Is there?" Princess Lyra interrupted. "My species can reproduce at will when conditions are optimal. We do not waste resources on constant mating rituals or emotional attachments. It is efficient, logical. Your species seems governed by biological imperatives you cannot control." Alex felt heat rising to his face. This wasn't in any of the briefings. Our reproductive biology is different, yes, but different? It's primitive. The princess circled the room, all 4 arms clasped behind her back. "The Galactic Council requires member species to demonstrate advanced biological control. How can we trust humans with interstellar responsibilities when you cannot even control your own breeding cycles?" General Rodriguez, the highest-ranking military officer present, cleared his throat. "Princess Lyra, we were under the impression this summit was to discuss technological exchange and mutual defense." "It was," she said, her skin darkening to deep indigo. "Until our preliminary research revealed concerning vulnerabilities in human biology. The Galaxian Empire does not form alliances with species that could become extinct due to their own biological limitations." The room fell silent. 6 months of careful diplomacy, billions in preparation, and humanity was being dismissed because of reproduction. Dr. Patel stepped forward again. "Your Highness, human reproduction may differ from Galaxian methods, but we've survived ice ages, plagues, and nuclear threats. Our species is remarkably resilient." "Words?" Princess Lyra waved a dismissive hand. "I require proof. My delegation will remain on Earth for 1 orbital cycle of your moon. During that time, you will demonstrate that humans possess sufficient biological control to qualify for alliance consideration." Alex's mind raced. What exactly was she asking? "Your Highness, could you clarify what demonstration you're seeking?" The princess turned those unsettling eyes on him. "Prove that humans can reproduce successfully in any season, any climate, under controlled conditions. Prove that your species has evolved beyond mere instinct. Otherwise..." She let the threat hang in the air. "That's absurd," General Rodriguez muttered, too loudly. Princess Lyra's guards stepped forward, their hands moving to weapons. The princess raised one of her 4 arms, stopping them. "Is it absurd to expect potential allies to demonstrate basic evolutionary advancement? The Galaxian Empire stretches across 12 star systems precisely because we do not form alliances with species doomed to extinction." Alex stepped between them. "We accept your challenge, Your Highness." The delegation erupted in whispers. General Rodriguez grabbed his arm. "Lieutenant, you have no authority. With respect, sir, Alex kept his eyes on the princess, we can't afford to lose this opportunity. The Mechroids have already taken 3 outer colonies. Without advanced defensive technology, Earth is next. The princess's skin lightened to a pleased lavender. Wise choice, Lieutenant Chen. You have 30 Earth days. Demonstrate controlled reproduction under varying environmental conditions, or our ships depart, taking with them your only hope against the Mechroid expansion. As Princess Lyra and her guards departed, leaving the stunned human delegation behind, Alex turned to Dr. Patel. Tell me you have some idea how we're going to prove to an alien princess that humanity deserves to survive. Maya's eyes were bright with an unexpected excitement. Actually, I think I do. But you're not going to like it. The conference room cleared quickly, leaving Alex, Dr. Patel, and General Rodriguez alone with the weight of what had just happened. Through the viewport, Alex could see the massive Galaxian ship, its crystalline appendages glittering against Earth's blue backdrop. You had no authority to accept those terms, Lieutenant, Rodriguez said, his voice low and controlled, which Alex knew was more dangerous than shouting. This is beyond your pay grade. With respect, sir, what choice did we have? Alex replied, loosening his collar. The Mechroids have already taken Proxima Centauri and the Epsilon Eridani colonies. Our deep space sensors show they're less than 2 years from reaching our solar system. Dr. Patel was already typing furiously on her tablet. The general's right about one thing. We need to get the rest of the scientific team involved immediately. This challenge is unusual. Rodriguez ran a hand over his close-cropped hair. Unusual? It's offensive. She's treating us like lab rats. That's exactly what we are to them, Maya replied without looking up. The Galaxians evolved differently. From what little we know, they reproduce through some form of controlled cellular division. No courtship, no pregnancy, no birth as we understand it. Their entire perspective on reproduction is clinical. Alex leaned against the conference table. What did you mean when you said you had an idea? Maya finally looked up, her dark eyes bright with that gleam that Alex recognized from their academy days, the look she got just before proposing something either brilliant or insane. Usually both. The princess doesn't understand human reproduction because she's viewing it through a Galaxian lens. She thinks we can't control when we reproduce, that we're slaves to biology and seasonal cycles like non-sentient animals. So we need to convince her otherwise, Alex said. Exactly. We need to show her that human reproduction is actually remarkably controlled compared to most species on Earth. We use technology, planning, and social structures. We choose when to have children or not have them. General Rodriguez looked unconvinced. And how exactly do we demonstrate this without turning it into some kind of reproductive circus? Maya's smile was almost mischievous. We don't show her actual reproduction. We show her our reproductive science. IVF labs, cryogenic storage facilities, genetic counseling centers. We demonstrate that humans have mastered reproductive technology to such a degree that we can create life in any season, under virtually any condition. Alex felt a flicker of hope. That might actually work. It's not enough, a new voice said from the doorway. They turned to see Commander Zoe Richards, head of Earth's Xenopolitical Relations Division. She'd been observing the meeting remotely and must have rushed over after the disastrous encounter. I've been studying Galaxian cultural transmissions for months, Zoe said, joining them at the table. They're matriarchal and deeply hierarchical. Princess Lyra isn't just testing our biology, she's testing our worthiness as potential allies. What do you mean? Alex asked. Zoe's expression was grim. The Galaxians believe superior species demonstrate control over 3 domains: their environment, their biology, and their society. By questioning our reproduction, she's actually questioning all 3. So our fancy IVF labs won't impress her? Maya asked. They're a start, Zoe admitted. But we need to show her something more fundamental, that humans have evolved beyond our basic instincts in ways that make us stronger, not weaker. Alex felt a headache forming behind his eyes. How do we do that in 30 days? We give her a tour, Zoe said simply. But not the sanitized diplomatic version. A real tour of humanity, our adaptability, our diversity, our resilience. From the Arctic research stations to the underwater habitats in the Mariana Trench. From our oldest cultures to our newest technologies. General Rodriguez looked skeptical. And how does this relate to reproduction? Because ultimately, Maya said, catching on quickly, what Princess Lyra is really asking is whether humans are fit to survive as a species. Whether we deserve to. The room fell silent as the enormity of the task settled upon them. It wasn't just about reproduction anymore. It was about proving humanity's worth to a species that could either save them from the approaching Mechroid threat or leave them to face extinction alone. Alex's comm unit chimed, breaking the tense silence. A message from the Galaxian ship. Princess Lyra requested his presence as her liaison for the duration of the challenge. Him specifically. Well, he said, looking up at the others with a half-hearted smile, at least she likes one of us. Or she's identified you as the weakest link, Zoe suggested, not unkindly. The Galaxians respect hierarchy. As the lowest-ranking officer who spoke during the meeting, you're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish in her eyes. Probably both, Maya said with a familiar teasing tone that momentarily transported Alex back to simpler times. As Alex prepared to board the shuttle that would take him to the Galaxian ship, he couldn't help wondering what the princess really wanted. Were they being tested, manipulated, or genuinely evaluated? And why did it feel like Princess Lyra had already known exactly how this meeting would unfold before she ever set foot in the room, 3 weeks into Princess Lyra's challenge, and Alex was running on caffeine and determination? The Galaxian royal had proven to be an exhausting, exacting observer of humanity. They'd visited research facilities on 6 continents, traversed environments from desert to tundra, and interviewed everyone from tribal elders to geneticists. All the while, the princess's expression remained unreadable, her kaleidoscope eyes revealing nothing of her thoughts. Today they stood in the Singapore Biodome, humanity's most advanced reproductive science facility. The air smelled of antiseptic and promise. Dr. Maya led the tour, her enthusiasm evident as she gestured to the cryogenic storage units. Here we preserve genetic material that can remain viable for centuries, she explained. We can initiate new human life regardless of season, geography, or even the physical presence of the genetic donors. Princess Lyra's skin rippled with purple and blue patterns, what Alex had come to recognize as curiosity. So you've mechanized reproduction entirely? Removed the biological component. Not removed, Maya corrected. Enhanced. We've given people choices while respecting the fundamental biology that makes us human. The princess tilted her head. Yet you still rely on random genetic recombination. Inefficient. Beautifully inefficient, Maya countered. That genetic variation is our greatest strength. After the tour, Alex escorted Princess Lyra to the facility's rooftop garden. Singapore's skyline glittered in the distance, a testament to human ingenuity. For a moment, they stood in silence. You've been quiet today, Lieutenant, the princess observed. Does our discussion of human reproduction make you uncomfortable? Alex chose his words carefully. Not uncomfortable, Your Highness. But I've noticed you've focused almost exclusively on the scientific aspects. I wonder if you're missing something important about how humans relate to reproduction. And what would that be? The emotional component. The choice isn't just biological or technological for us, it's deeply personal. The princess's skin darkened. Emotions. Always emotions with humans. The Galaxian Empire has evolved beyond such primitive drivers. Have you? Alex asked, surprising himself with his boldness. 3 weeks in the princess's company had worn down his diplomatic filter. Because from what I've observed, Your Highness, your emotions about humans have been driving this entire evaluation. For a dangerous moment, Princess Lyra's guards tensed, hands hovering near their weapons. Then, unexpectedly, her skin rippled with patterns Alex had never seen before. You are more observant than I gave you credit for, Lieutenant Chin. She dismissed her guards with a gesture. Once they were alone, she continued, you are correct. This evaluation has never been solely about reproduction. Back at the UN headquarters, Commander Richards was facing a crisis of her own. The Mechroid fleet had accelerated unexpectedly. New projections showed them reaching Earth's solar system within months, not years. "We need the Calaxian Alliance now," she told General Rodriguez, displaying the deep space scans. "We can't wait for Princess Lyra to finish her reproductive scavenger hunt." "And what do you suggest?" Rodriguez asked. "We can't force her hand." "Maybe we can," Zoe replied. "What if we show her the threat directly? Make her understand that her academic curiosity about human biology is a luxury we can't afford." The general's expression darkened. "That could backfire spectacularly. If she decides we're not worth saving, we lose everything." "If we do nothing, we lose everything anyway," Zoe countered. On the Calaxian ship, Princess Lyra led Alex to a chamber he hadn't been permitted to enter before. Inside, holographic displays showed Earth from multiple angles, not just physical geography, but data overlays of population density, technological development, resource management, and more. 27 days ago, I told you humans needed to demonstrate controlled reproduction, Lyra said. What I didn't tell you is that the Calaxian Empire has been studying Earth for decades. Alex's stomach tightened. Why? Because your planet sits at a strategic junction point between our territory and Mechroid expansion. Because your species showed unusual potential despite your biological limitations. Because we needed to know if you were worth saving. And are we? Alex asked quietly. Princess Lyra gestured to one of the displays, zooming in on a small island where a community had transformed former wasteland into thriving agricultural land. Humans adapt. You transform hostile environments instead of simply avoiding them. You use technology to overcome biological constraints instead of being limited by them. She turned to face him directly. But adaptation alone is not enough. The Mechroids adapt too, mechanically, relentlessly. What we needed to determine was whether humans possess something the Mechroids do not. Something worth preserving. A communication alert interrupted them. Dr. Maya's face appeared on the screen, her expression urgent. Alex, we have a situation. The Mechroid fleet has changed course. They'll reach us within weeks, not months. Princess Lyra's skin paled to an ashen gray. Impossible. Our intelligence. With respect, Your Highness, Maya cut in, your intelligence is wrong. And we're out of time for evaluations. Earth needs to know right now, are you our allies or not? Alex watched Princess Lyra's face as her inner conflict played across her shifting skin patterns. In that moment, he understood that the princess had her own superiors, her own protocols, her own fears. The evaluation isn't complete, Lyra said finally. It has to be, Alex replied. Whatever you're looking for in humanity, whatever proof you need that we're worthy of survival, you need to decide now. A second alert sounded, more urgent than the first. Commander Richards appeared alongside Maya, her expression grim. Lieutenant, we've detected unusual activity from the Calaxian ship. Energy readings consistent with weapons charging. We need to know what's happening up there. Alex looked at Princess Lyra, whose skin had turned a shade he'd never seen before, a deep, pulsing crimson that seemed to glow from within. Your Highness, he said carefully, what's happening? Princess Lyra turned to the command console and entered a series of instructions. The holographic displays shifted to show a massive fleet of ships approaching the solar system, far larger than the Mechroid threat they'd been tracking. That, she said quietly, is the real reason I am here. The ships weren't Mechroid. They were Calaxian. Alex stared at the holographic display, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Hundreds of Calaxian warships, arranged in perfect formation, heading directly toward Earth. This wasn't an alliance, it was an invasion force. You were never evaluating us for an alliance, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. This was reconnaissance. The reproductive challenge, it was just a distraction. Princess Lyra's crimson skin pulsed with an inner light. Not a distraction, Lieutenant. A genuine evaluation, but for a different purpose than you assumed. Over the comm link, Maya and Commander Richards watched in stunned silence. General Rodriguez pushed his way into view, his face hardening as he saw the fleet display. "How long have you been planning this?" Rodriguez demanded. "The Galaxian Empire doesn't plan invasions, General," Princess Lyra replied calmly. "We plan integrations. Species either become part of our collective or they make way for those who will use resources more efficiently." Alex felt cold dread spreading through his chest. "And the Mechroids? Are they even real?" "Very real," Lyra confirmed. "They've been consuming worlds at the edge of our territory for centuries. We studied their patterns and learned from them. Unlike the Mechroids, we don't destroy civilizations, we absorb what's useful and restructure the rest." "That's just invasion with better PR." Maya snapped over the comm. The princess ignored her. "Lieutenant, our fleet will reach Earth in 7 days. The choices your leaders make in that time will determine whether humans become valued contributors to the Galaxian Empire or historical footnotes." Alex's hand moved subtly toward his sidearm, but the princess noticed. Her upper right hand raised in warning. "Violence would be pointless. This ship is already transmitting everything I've learned about Earth's defenses, population centers, and technological capabilities. Killing me would change nothing." Commander Richards cut in. "Your Highness, there must be room for negotiation. Our species can offer—" "This is not a negotiation," Lyra interrupted. "It is notification. The Empire expands. It is what we do. What we have always done." Alex's mind raced. Something about the princess's words didn't fit with what he'd observed these past weeks. If this is just a notification, why the elaborate charade? Why spend weeks studying our reproductive methods? Why not just arrive with your fleet and overwhelm us? Princess Lyra's skin shifted slightly, patterns flowing across her surface in a way Alex had come to recognize as uncertainty. "Because the Empire requires efficiency. Conquering a resistant population wastes resources. The evaluation determines how best to integrate your species, what roles you can fill, what aspects of your civilization are worth preserving." Before Alex could respond, the ship's alarms blared. One of Lyra's guards burst into the chamber, speaking rapidly in their native tongue. The princess's skin paled to a ghostly blue. She turned to Alex. "Your people have done something incredibly foolish." The holographic display shifted to show Earth's orbital defense platforms activating, their weapons systems coming online and targeting the Galaxian ship. "That's impossible," Rodriguez said over the comm. "I gave no such order." "Nor did I," added Commander Richards, frantically typing on a secondary console. "The defense grid is operating autonomously. Something's overridden our command protocols." Lyra's guards surrounded her protectively as the ship shuddered under the first impact from Earth's orbital cannons. "Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields," she said, though her tone lacked conviction. "This attack will only accelerate the Empire's timeline." A new voice joined the chaos. Dr. Patel's assistant, Theo Kim, appeared behind Maya on the comm screen. "Actually, those aren't Earth's normal defense systems," he said, his expression a mixture of pride and terror. "We've been analyzing Galaxian transmission patterns for weeks. What's firing at you now are modified prototypes calibrated specifically to your shield frequencies." The ship shuddered more violently as a second blast hit. Emergency lights flashed as systems began to fail. "Theo, what have you done?" Maya whispered, horrified. "What we had to," he replied unapologetically. "While you were all playing tour guide to royalty, some of us were preparing for the worst. We knew this wasn't just about reproduction. Nothing ever is with advanced species." Princess Lyra's guards drew weapons, pointing them at Alex. "You knew," one accused. "This was your plan all along." "I didn't," Alex protested, raising his hands. "I had no idea." Another blast rocked the ship, throwing everyone off balance. Alex used the moment to lunge toward Princess Lyra, not to attack but to shield her as part of the ceiling collapsed where she had been standing. They tumbled to the floor together, his body covering hers as debris rained down around them. When the dust settled, Lyra stared up at him in obvious confusion. You protected me? Despite knowing my mission?" I'm a soldier, Alex said simply. My job is to protect, not destroy. For a moment, something changed in the princess's expression. Then the ship's emergency containment fields activated, separating them as automatic protocols engaged. Alex found himself trapped behind a translucent energy barrier, watching as the princess's guards hurried her toward an escape pod. Before entering, she turned back to look at him, her skin shifting to a color he'd never seen before, a soft, luminescent gold. Lieutenant Chin, she called out. There is something you should know about the Galaxian fleet. The ship lurched again, cutting her off. Alex pressed against the energy barrier. What about the fleet? Princess Lyra's expression was unreadable as the escape pod doors closed around her. In seconds, it ejected from the failing ship, streaking toward the approaching Galaxian armada. On the still active comm link, chaos reigned. General Rodriguez was bellowing orders to stand down the defense systems. Commander Richards was coordinating emergency response teams. And Maya was staring directly at the camera, her expression grim. Alex, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Galaxian fleet. They're not matching any of the patterns we've observed from Princess Lyra's ship. In fact, she paused, her eyes widening. In fact, they're not reading as Galaxian at all. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized to show the approaching fleet again. But now, with the ship's sensors recalibrating after the attack, the image was changing. The sleek, crystalline forms of Galaxian vessels were distorting, revealing something else beneath the visual deception. Something mechanical. Something implacable. Something that had been disguised as Galaxian, but was unmistakably something else entirely. The Galaxian ship shuddered violently as another barrage hit its weakening shields. Alex braced himself against the wall, frantically working to override the emergency containment field. Maya, he shouted into his comm unit. What do you mean they're not Galaxian? On the small screen, Maya's face was illuminated by the glow of multiple displays. The fleet's energy signature matches Mechroid technology, but with modifications we've never seen before. It's as if they've evolved. Or adapted, Alex muttered, thinking of Princess Lyra's words about integration and efficiency. The override sequence finally accepted his command codes, and the energy barrier dissipated. He wasted no time, sprinting toward the bridge as the ship continued to deteriorate around him. Earth's modified defense systems had stopped firing, but the damage was done. Life support was failing, and the remaining Galaxian crew were abandoning ship. Alex found the bridge deserted except for a single communications officer, desperately trying to contact the princess's escape pod. Where is she headed? Alex demanded. The officer looked up, fear evident in his rapidly shifting skin colors. The royal shuttle is on intercept course with the approaching fleet. The princess believes she can negotiate with her superiors. Those aren't her superiors, Alex said. They're not even Galaxian. They're Mechroids. The officer's skin paled to near translucence. Impossible. The Mechroids are primitive war machines. They cannot mimic our biosignatures. Apparently they can now, Alex replied, studying the ship's tracking system. The princess's shuttle was still 20 minutes from intercepting the disguised fleet. There might still be time. His comm unit crackled to life. General Rodriguez's voice came through, strained but authoritative. Lieutenant, we're sending an extraction team. The Galaxian ship is breaking apart. Negative, sir. I need a different kind of transport. Alex took a deep breath. I need to intercept Princess Lyra's shuttle before it reaches that fleet. If the Mechroids have her, they'll have access to everything she knows about Earth's defenses. There was a moment of silence, then Rodriguez spoke again. There's an experimental attack craft in Launch Bay 3. Fast, maneuverable, and armed. It might survive the trip. Might is good enough for me, sir. 15 minutes later, Alex shot through space in what was essentially a heavily armed cockpit with engines. Earth glowed blue and green behind him as he pushed the craft to its limits, gaining on the princess's shuttle. On his comm, Maya provided continuous updates. The Mechroid fleet has dropped their disguise completely, she reported. They're transmitting some kind of signal toward the princess's shuttle. Alex, whatever you're planning, hurry. The shuttle appeared on his view screen, sleek and elegant against the backdrop of stars. Beyond it, the true form of the approaching fleet was now visible, angular, metallic constructs with pulsing red energy at their cores. No longer mimicking Galaxian design, they resembled massive mechanical insects, their surfaces bristling with weapons. Alex opened a channel to the shuttle. "Princess Lyra, this is Lieutenant Chin. Do not approach the fleet. I repeat, do not approach. They are not Galaxian." No response. He tried again, increasing signal strength. Still nothing. "Maya, they're jamming her communications. Can you break through?" "Working on it," she replied. "But there's something else. We're detecting unusual energy readings from inside the princess's shuttle. It's changing." Alex pushed the attack craft harder, closing the distance. He could now see the shuttle clearly through his viewport. Its crystalline surface was darkening, black tendrils spreading across its hull like infection. "The mechroids are assimilating the shuttle remotely." Maya's voice was tight with fear. "They must have developed some kind of nanotechnology that converts organic and inorganic matter." "How long until complete conversion?" Alex asked, arming his weapon systems. "Minutes. Maybe less." "Alex, if the princess is still alive in there?" He didn't need her to finish the thought. The princess was the only ONE who might understand what they were truly facing. She might be Earth's only hope, ironically, the very position she had placed humanity in just weeks before. Alex locked weapons on the shuttle's engines. The precise hit might disable it without destroying it completely. He took a deep breath, finger hovering over the trigger. The shuttle suddenly veered off course, its engines flaring bright. Something was happening inside. The black tendrils paused their spread, then began to recede in places. "Maya, what am I seeing?" "She's fighting back," Maya replied, wonder in her voice. "The Galaxian biochemistry. It's resisting the mechroid assimilation process." Alex's targeting computer beeped, indicating a lock on the shuttle's engines. Now or never, he fired. The precision blast severed one of the shuttle's engine cores. It spiraled away from its course toward the mechroid fleet, tumbling into open space. Alex adjusted his trajectory to intercept, bringing his craft alongside the damaged shuttle. Through the viewport, he could see movement inside, a struggle between light and dark, between princess and machine. Using his craft's emergency docking mechanism, he attached to the shuttle's airlock. The seal wasn't perfect, but it would hold long enough. He pulled on his emergency vacuum suit and prepared to breach. "Alex, this is crazy," Maya's voice came through his helmet. "Even if she's alive, she's not human. The princess's biology might be toxic or incompatible with." "We're past the point of caution," he interrupted. "The mechroids will be in weapons range of Earth in less than 2 hours. She's our only source of information." The airlock cycled, and Alex stepped into the shuttle. What he found inside defied explanation. Princess Lyra stood at the center of the command deck, all 4 arms extended outward. Black nanites swarmed over her skin, trying to convert her cellular structure, but wherever they touched, her skin glowed with intense golden light, burning them away. It was a stalemate. The mechroid technology couldn't fully assimilate her, but she couldn't fully expel it. Her eyes found his, recognition flaring. "Lieutenant," she gasped, her voice distorted. "You should not be here." "Neither should you," he replied, moving toward her carefully. "Your fleet isn't coming, Princess. The mechroids have been impersonating them." "Not impersonating," she managed, fighting visibly against the nanites crawling up her neck. "Replacing. The mechroids conquered the Galaxian homeworld 6 cycles ago. Been hunting survivors since." The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. "You're not an evaluation team. You're refugees." Her skin pulsed with confirmation. The reproductive challenge was real. Needed to know if humans could adapt. Like we failed to do. "Why didn't you just tell us the truth?" he demanded, searching for something, anything to help her fight the spreading nanites. "Would you have believed me?" she asked, a hint of her former imperious tone returning. "Would you have welcomed thousands of alien refugees based on a story of defeat?" She had a point. Earth's history with refugees, even human ones, was complicated at best. The shuttle shuddered as something massive latched onto its hull. Through the viewport, Alex could see a Mechroid scout ship attaching itself, cutting tools extending toward the airlock. "They're boarding," he warned. Princess Lyra's expression hardened. "Lieutenant, listen carefully. The Calaxian biology is resistant but not immune. The Mechroids want our adaptive capabilities. They've been hunting us across galaxies." "What does that have to do with human reproduction?" Alex asked, drawing his weapon as the cutting tools began to slice through the outer hull. "Everything," she replied. "Calaxians reproduce through controlled cellular division. Perfect copies, generation after generation. It made us stagnant. Humans are chaotic, unpredictable, constantly evolving through random genetic combination. Your reproductive inefficiency is your greatest defense against the Mechroids." Understanding dawned. They can't predict what we'll become. Precisely. Her skin was now more black than gold, the nanites gaining ground. "Lieutenant, Alex, the Mechroid weakness is in their network. They share one consciousness. Disrupt the central node, disrupt them all." The cutting tools breached the hull, atmosphere hissing out through the widening gap. Alex's suit protected him, but Princess Lyra had no protection. The nanites swarmed faster as her strength faded. "Which one is the central node?" he shouted over the escaping air. "Not one of them," she gasped. Her skin was almost entirely black now, only her face still glowing with resistance. "It's me. I'm becoming their new node." Before Alex could process her words, Princess Lyra's body convulsed. The golden light flared across her skin with blinding intensity, pushing back the darkness. With tremendous effort, she reached out and grasped Alex's suit with all four hands. "Tell your people," she whispered, her voice somehow clear despite the vacuum forming around them. "Adaptability is everything. Cherish your beautiful, chaotic biology." With her remaining strength, she shoved Alex back through the airlock into his attack craft. The moment he cleared the threshold, she slammed her hand on the emergency separation controls. The docking clamps released. Alex's craft drifted away from the shuttle just as the Mechroid boarding party broke through. He caught a final glimpse of Princess Lyra, her body now a battlefield between golden light and mechanical darkness, before she activated something on her wrist device. The shuttle exploded in a flash of energy unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The blast engulfed the attached Mechroid ship and radiated outward in a wave of golden light. When it reached the main Mechroid fleet, each ship began to convulse, their mechanical perfection failing as some invisible signal corrupted their shared consciousness. Alex's small craft tumbled end over end from the shock wave, systems failing as he lost consciousness. He awoke in a recovery room on Earth, Maya and Commander Richards standing over him. "Welcome back," Maya said, relief evident in her voice. "You've been out for 3 days." "The Mechroids?" he croaked. "Gone," Commander Richards replied. "Or at least, non-functional." When Princess Lyra's shuttle exploded, it emitted some kind of targeted EMP that affected only Mechroid technology. "Our scientists are still trying to understand it." "She sacrificed herself," Alex said quietly. "She could have escaped in my craft, but she chose to stay." Maya nodded solemnly. The ultimate adaptation, changing from conqueror to savior. As Alex recovered in the following weeks, Earth's scientists discovered something remarkable in the debris field where Princess Lyra had made her last stand. Among the scattered remnants of Mechroid technology was a small crystalline container, perfectly intact. Inside, suspended in nutrient fluid, was a single Calaxian cell, genetically identical to Princess Lyra, yet modified in subtle, deliberate ways. A message accompanied it, in code. D in a format only Alex's neural implant could read. "Lieutenant Chen, if you are receiving this, my final adaptation was successful. The cell contains my genetic material, modified to resist Mechroid assimilation permanently. I leave it to humanity's chaotic, beautiful reproductive science to determine its fate. Perhaps, in time, our species may yet form the alliance I originally sought, not as conqueror and subject, but as equals." The universe grows more dangerous daily. Adaptation is survival. Prove worthy of it. As Earth prepared for the inevitable return of the Mechroids, Alex couldn't help but wonder, had this been Princess Lyra's plan all along? Not an evaluation of humanity's reproductive capabilities, but a test of our capacity for compassion, even toward those who appeared to threaten us. The ultimate reproductive strategy, after all, wasn't just about continuing one's own species, but ensuring the survival of life itself, in all its chaotic, unpredictable, beautiful forms. 6 months after Princess Lyra's sacrifice, Earth had changed in ways few could have imagined. The United Nations Space Authority had established the Adaptation Initiative, a global program combining the best minds in xenobiology, reproductive science, and defense technology. At its heart was a new research facility built in Singapore, where the princess's crystalline container was housed in a specialized laboratory. Alex stood at the observation window, watching Dr. Maya Patel work alongside a team of scientists. The single Galaxian cell had been successfully cultured and now filled a small growth chamber with shimmering, golden tissue. Lieutenant Chen, General Rodriguez greeted him, joining him at the window. The general looked older now, the weight of Earth's new reality etched in the lines of his face. Or should I say Captain Chen? Alex smiled slightly, fingers brushing the new insignia on his uniform. Still getting used to it, sir. You earned it. Not many officers can claim they saved humanity from an alien threat while uncovering an interstellar refugee crisis. They watched in silence as Maya carefully adjusted something in the growth chamber. The Galaxian tissue pulsed in response, patterns of light flowing across its surface. How much longer? Rodriguez asked. Dr. Patel estimates another 3 months before full cellular maturation, Alex replied. Though what exactly that means for a Galaxian, we still don't know. And you're certain this is what Princess Lyra intended? Growing her clone? Offspring? Whatever this is. Alex nodded. Her message was clear. She modified her genetic material to resist Mechroid assimilation permanently. It's not just a gift, it's a weapon. Possibly the most important one we'll have when the Mechroids return. When, not if, Rodriguez noted grimly. Their central consciousness was disrupted, not destroyed. Our deep space monitoring stations have already detected unusual activity at the edge of the solar system. They're regrouping. Commander Richards approached, carrying a tablet displaying the latest deep space scans. She'd been promoted to Director of Xenopolitical Affairs, overseeing Earth's new approach to potential extraterrestrial contact. We've decrypted more of the Galaxian data cache from Princess Lyra's shuttle, she said without preamble. There are others, Galaxian survivors scattered across 12 star systems. She wasn't just hoping we'd continue her lineage. She was hoping we'd help rescue her people. Alex had suspected as much. In the weeks before her sacrifice, he'd seen something change in Princess Lyra's demeanor, a shift from imperial arrogance to something more complicated. Hope perhaps, or desperation masked as superiority. The Galaxians have been running for years, Richards continued. Their reproduction method made them vulnerable, too perfect, too predictable. The Mechroids could anticipate their every adaptation. While we sloppy humans just keep rolling genetic dice every generation, Theo Kim added, joining their group. After his unauthorized activation of Earth's defense systems, Theo had faced a military tribunal and been subsequently recruited to head cybersecurity for the Adaptation Initiative. Our messy biology saved us. Through the lab window, they watched as Maya carefully extracted a small sample from the growing Galaxian tissue. Her expression was focused, reverent almost. This wasn't just scientific research, it was midwifery for an endangered species. We've been integrating Princess Lyra's genetic modifications into theoretical human medical applications, Theo said, showing Alex a simulation on his tablet. The potential for disease resistance alone is revolutionary. Her gift might advance human medicine by centuries. I don't think that was accidental, Alex replied softly. She was playing a long game all along. That evening, Alex stood on the roof of the research facility, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Somewhere among them, Mechroid forces were rebuilding. Somewhere else, Calaxian refugees were hiding, perhaps giving up hope of ever returning home. Maya joined him, wrapping her lab coat tighter against the evening breeze. The cellular division is accelerating, she said. Whatever Princess Lyra did to her genetic material, it's responding to Earth's environment in ways we never anticipated. It's adapting. Alex smiled at the irony. So her final lesson continues. I've been thinking about what she said to you, Maya continued. About our chaotic, beautiful reproductive science. I think she came to respect us in the end. I think she came to envy us, Alex corrected gently. The Calaxians achieved biological perfection through controlled reproduction, but that perfection became their vulnerability. Our imperfection, our messy, random genetic shuffling, is our strength. Maya leaned against the railing, her shoulder touching his. We've received approval for the next phase. Once the tissue matures, we'll attempt to use Lyra's modified template to revive stored Calaxian genetic samples from her ship. If it works, we'll have taken the first step towards saving an entire species, Alex finished. Using the very reproductive technology she came to evaluate. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. What had begun as an alien princess's doubtful evaluation of humanity's reproductive capabilities had transformed into humanity's chance to help an advanced species overcome its own biological limitations. As the first stars appeared overhead, Alex thought about Princess Lyra's final message. Adaptation is survival. In the end, perhaps the greatest adaptation wasn't biological at all, but the capacity to move beyond fear of the different, to extend compassion even to those who had initially approached as conquerors. Earth's space agencies were already retrofitting vessels for deep space travel, preparing for the day they might venture out to find the scattered Calaxian refugees. Not as saviors, but as allies who understood something fundamental about life in this vast, dangerous universe. Diversity wasn't inefficient. It was essential that I end the lab below. Princess Lyra's legacy continued to grow, pulsing with golden light, a beacon of possibility for two very different species who had found common ground in the most unlikely circumstance. Whatever came next, humanity would face it with our chaotic, beautiful, perfectly imperfect biology, and with the wisdom of an alien princess who had learned to value exactly that.